Island says you're wanted with it.
Mr. Williams, you were arrested for pursuant to an arrest.
The streets didn't even get a chance to celebrate before the gavel came back down. Pooh Shiesty's probation terms weren't suggestions, they were conditions. And from what came out, he treated them like they were optional. Academics took it live, made sure everybody heard it. Shiesty was back in custody. 31 days of freedom. That's it. Less than a month before the whole thing collapsed on him. And the match that lit the fire? He jumped online and started running his mouth about body counts, putting Lil Boosie's name in there as maybe the only rapper who could see him. People sat up when they read that. Then, 2 days later, chatter started swirling that he had people moving against YoungBoy Never Broke Again. If you're a real fan of Pooh Shiesty and want him to stay free, subscribe. We only want real Pooh Shiesty fans subscribing. Here's the thing about Shiesty's probation. It wasn't vague. It straight up said no public confrontations, no going at people, nothing that could be read as aggression. 5 days. He was 5 days removed from a prison cell when he was already in a visible back and forth with YoungBoy for the entire internet to screenshot and save. The feds didn't have to dig for it. He handed it to them. Walked right back into the fire like the paperwork he signed meant nothing.
We really live this we talk about, you hear me? We really did live this stupid. You stupid or what? Go look at our video. Could see the last one standing. Like I said.
Next day, he's on stream with Ben, and they decide to pull up a streamer named RICO through FaceTime. Except RICO didn't come on to play nice. Dude looked Shiesty dead in the screen and made it known without flinching that he was planted firmly on YoungBoy's side.
Don't apologize to me.
Man, RICO, hey, look, man, you gotta, man, just rep anything, man. Just say you something, and then you good.
I'm 4K Dre.
Who?
RICO, what the, man?
You just said what?
You could,
Ain't good for him, good. Ain't no.
I'm finna,
nice,
you right back.
See, that's the kind of moment where everything shifts. You can talk behind somebody's back all day on the internet, but when somebody stares you down through a screen with thousands watching and tells you point blank they're against you, that's not clout chasing anymore. That's a declaration. For a man like Pooh Shiesty, whose whole identity is built on never backing down, never showing soft, that moment can't just get scrolled past. That hits different. And even with Lil Durk sitting behind walls, Shiesty never wavered on where his loyalty was planted. A lot of that came from Lil Zay Osama putting rappers on blast who were flipping sides between Durk and YoungBoy. Shiesty wasn't about to let his name get lumped into that list of flip-floppers, so he stood up and made his position loud and undeniable.
Real though, I don't see why this was surprising or new to y'all. Everybody jumping ship because this how the industry is. Nobody in the industry is gonna stick around you when you at your lowest. They can't get clout, notoriety, money, fame, features, videos, something that they could benefit from off you. They're gonna jump ship. I don't see why it's surprising that everybody is on YB in the industry. That's how it go. They only gonna you when it's beneficial to them. None of these ain't grow up with Dirt. None of these ain't friends or real homies with Dirt for real, for real. You know what I'm saying? Or they would never change, or they would never jump ship. Cause where we from, if you with me, my ops is your ops is mine. Some people don't look at it like that. Some people look at it like I f with both parties, I ain't got nothing to do with it. And look, you not wrong for that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, shout out to the that still done stayed down for Dirk, his real family and friends.
And as if that wasn't enough, somebody on that same stream didn't even know who Pooh Shiesty was. And that might have been the worst thing that happened all night. That kind of disrespect hit him somewhere deep, and how he responded told you everything you needed to know about his headspace in that moment.
My jerk? Oh.
Lil Durk.
JCV Films with that fire gift, bro. I appreciate you.
OTL. What's that, man? Why you say it like that for? Come on, get your picture, man, before you get
Oh, wait, my phone.
Streams picture out. They're going crazy.
Yeah. Wrong her chest. He talking about who it again.
Shiesty was going straight at YoungBoy, holding Durk's flag up while it felt like the rest of the industry was migrating the other direction. Youngboy's pull was real at that point. Academics was saying rappers were flooding his DMs just trying to get a feature, trying to attach themselves to whatever wave he was riding.
I'm in the dressing room, and we just talking about a bunch of... He's also telling me, and I will never say who. He's telling me all the rappers who was now hitting him up, and he kind of asked me, he's like, "Act, so what you think, man?" Because I think he's thinking like, yo, should he forgive some of these? Like, well, all these rappers on it. You know what I mean? Like, they're all like, yo, young boy, we love you, right? And I gave him the best advice, I think. I said, I didn't want to impart my thoughts on it because I don't know fully what he's been through and what he's thought. Because, he was down where nobody would. So I said, whatever your heart feels about any of these or kind of doubling back or not want to do whatever, go with that.
That gave Youngboy all the fuel he needed to fire back. And he didn't throw a warning shot either. He came out calling Shiesty a snitch and questioning how somebody walks out of a federal bid that smoothly. Then it got deeper because someone who was actually inside with Shiesty started talking. According to them, Shiesty wasn't holding it down in there the way his reputation suggested. The claim was that other inmates were making him stand up while he ate his food. Now, if you've never been inside, that might not hit right away. But in prison culture, that's one of the most degrading things that can happen to a man. Making somebody stand while they eat is inmates telling you to your face that you're beneath them, that you haven't earned the right to sit at the table. For a person whose whole brand is built on being feared and respected, having that narrative circulating publicly is the kind of thing that eats to a reputation like acid.
They got the call, man, so when the feds, man, apparently non-affiliate or whatever, man, any it is not gang related at all. Running up under no car, gotta stand up while they eating. Hey man, you was in that motherfucker standing up while you were eating. When they bump down on you, they ask you, is you under the five or is you a rapper? You said a rapper. I got facts about these, man. Hey man, I'm on this, man. You know what I'm talking about, man? Cause why, hold on, man. You ain't stand up? You ain't sit down? When it was time to stand on business. So you let basically you, man, made you stand up and eat your food. I thought you supposed to sit down and eat. Man, you got the internet food, man. And in jail, man.
But then, just when the internet had fully run with the story and everyone was piling on, that same Memphis OG who dropped all of it did a total reversal. Came back and took it all back. Every word.
Damn, man, I just found out, man, hey, man, I was off the medication, man. I'm so up, bro. I'm just institutionalized. I'm a convict.
I didn't even know this little cousin the whole time. Los. Damn, Lo, why you ain't tell me Pooh Shiesty was our little cousin, bro? Damn, Pooh, we got the same line, man. My name Williams too, man. G. Williams, man. You know what I'm saying? Jadero Williams, man. Hey, man, we got the same last name.
Nobody really bought it, though. The vibe across the board was that Shiesty had reached out and made it clear the talking needed to stop. That flip then opened up a different question. Why wasn't Youngboy coming at Shiesty directly himself? Academics broke down his take on it, pointing out that Youngboy is deep in money but hasn't let that soften him. He's still fully capable of pulling up and handling things the old way. And that's actually what makes him more of a threat, not less. When you've got that kind of money stacked up, you don't need to put yourself in the front of anything. You move quiet, stay unbothered, and the right people handle it for you. That's not just one person you're dealing with anymore. That's an entire network that moves when the money says move.
Probably the only rapper that gets to the level of, he's doing an arena. He just came off a $75 million tour. It grossed $75 million. Yet we still believe that he's totally ready to. Usually it's one or the other. If we really think that you're the crash out, you're not going on tour to do an arena. We usually think you're who goes to you get one or two shows because you're really living like that. He's the only person that I think maintained the image.
But don't get it twisted. Pooh Shiesty isn't somebody you casually step to either. He came up in Memphis, Tennessee, a city that has absolutely no patience for people who fake it. In Memphis, your reputation isn't built in a studio or on social media. It's built in the streets and tested daily. Shiesty never had to fabricate any of it. He was already on law enforcement's radar before a single song dropped. The charges that followed his career weren't random. They were a direct extension of the life he was already living. When he first exploded onto the scene, it wasn't just the music that resonated. It was what people sensed underneath it. That authenticity isn't something you can coach or perform. People from the streets recognize it immediately because they know what it looks like up close. And in Memphis specifically, that recognition carries real weight. Even while he was locked up, his name didn't fade. His influence kept moving on. The outside, people kept riding for him. And that kind of loyalty doesn't get bought. It gets built over years through actions that people don't forget. Money can buy a lot of things, but it can't manufacture that. And now, with him back on the outside, even under probation, the energy around him is completely different. People can't just talk sideways anymore knowing he's free. That psychological shift is immediate. The streets feel it before anything even happens. His presence alone changes the math on any situation. What makes this beef with Youngboy particularly volatile is that Shiesty already went through the worst of it and came out the other side still moving the same way. You can't shake somebody with the threat of consequences they've already survived. He's been through the system, did the time, and came out without adjusting his approach 1 degree. That's not stubbornness. That's a completely different relationship with fear. And that's what makes him genuinely hard to calculate in a situation like this. And that's the part that really makes you stop and think. Because when you zoom out and look at the full picture of what Pooh Shiesty just threw away, it's genuinely difficult to wrap your head around. This wasn't some nobody who had nothing to lose. This was a man who had already beaten the odds once, who had already survived something that breaks most people permanently, who had already come out the other side with his name still intact and his fan base still locked in. He had every reason in the world to play it smart. He had every reason to keep his head down, check in with his PO, stay off the internet, and let time do what time does. But he didn't. And now the consequences of that choice are staring him in the face in the worst possible way. Think about what was actually on the table for him. A music career that hadn't even hit its full ceiling yet. He came in hot, made noise fast, built a following that was genuinely riding for him, and then got pulled into the system before he could really show what he was capable of. Most artists who go through something like that, who get locked up right in the middle of building momentum, they come out and they're already forgotten. The industry doesn't wait. The playlists move on. The features go to somebody else. But Shiesty, his name stayed relevant. People were still talking about him, still streaming his catalog, still anticipating what he dropped when he got out. That's rare. That doesn't happen for everybody. He still had a real chance to come back and capitalize on all of it. And now, that window might be closing permanently. Because here's the reality of his legal situation. This wasn't a slap on the wrist probation violation where you show up to court, apologize to the judge, and walk back out with a warning. He was already operating under federal oversight. Federal probation is not the same as state probation. The government doesn't give you multiple chances to get it right. They document everything. They monitor everything. And when you violate the terms they laid out for you, they move on it without hesitation. Shiesty allegedly gave them everything they needed wrapped up in a bow. Public confrontations, online activity that directly contradicted his agreement, and potential involvement in situations that go well beyond running your mouth on the internet. When federal prosecutors decide to bring you back in, they're not doing it on a maybe. They're doing it because they're confident they have what they need. What that means for him going forward is something that should genuinely concern anybody who is rooting for him. A judge who already gave him a sentence, who already watched him walk out on probation, who now has to look at everything that allegedly happened within the first month of his release. That judge is not going to be sympathetic. That judge is going to look at the file, look at how quickly it all fell apart, and make a decision based on what the evidence says about whether this person is capable of functioning outside of a controlled environment. And based on everything that's been reported, the evidence is not going to paint a pretty picture. There's a very real possibility that Pooh Shiesty doesn't see the outside of a cell again for a long time. Not years, a long time. The kind of time that doesn't just pause a career, it ends one. The kind of time that changes a person from the inside out in ways that can't be undone. He'd go in as somebody who still had cultural relevance, who still had people checking for him, who still had the infrastructure of a career waiting to be rebuilt. And he'd come out into a world that has completely moved on. New artists, new sounds, new conversations. The things that made him relevant would still be there in archive form, but the moment would be gone. You can't freeze time from behind a wall. And beyond the music, beyond the career, think about everything else that gets swallowed up by a long stretch. The relationships that don't survive distance and time. The milestones that happen without you. The personal growth that gets stunted when your entire environment is controlled and hostile. Prison takes things from people that don't show up on a sentencing document. It takes years that you never get back, experiences you never have, versions of yourself that you never become because the circumstances never allowed it. For somebody who's still young, who still had so much road ahead of them, that's a devastating thing to sit with. The real tragedy in all of this is that it didn't have to go this way. That's the part that lingers. Because Shiesty is not unintelligent. He knows how the system works. He lived through it. He knows what probation means. He knows what federal oversight looks like up close. And he knows better than most people exactly what happens when you don't take it seriously. He had that knowledge firsthand, and he still allegedly walked out and moved like none of that applied to him. Like the agreement he signed was just paperwork. Like the people monitoring him weren't paying attention. Whether that came from arrogance, from loyalty, from the pressure of the beef, or from something deeper, some inability to shift out of a mode that the streets demanded from him for years, the result is the same. He handed them a reason to take him back, and they took it. Now his name is attached to a story that nobody wanted to write. Not his fans, not the people who are anticipating his comeback, and honestly, probably not even the people on the other side of the beef who sparked it. Because regardless of where you stand on the Youngboy versus Durk situation, watching somebody lose their freedom over it doesn't feel like a win for anybody. It just feels like waste, like potential that got swallowed up by a moment that could have been handled differently, by a decision that could have been made differently, by a choice that seemed small in the moment and turned out to be everything. Pooh Shiesty may very well be looking at the remainder of his prime years disappearing behind a door that doesn't open from the inside. And no amount of loyalty, no amount of street credibility, no amount of reputation built over years in Memphis is going to matter when that door closes. The code doesn't follow you into a cell. The respect doesn't soften the sentence. What's left is just a man, a judge, and a file full of decisions that can't be taken back.